So I moved to New York in the mid-90s, and I lived in Brooklyn for about 18 years. In the last several years, how many years? 8 years now. Almost 10 years I've been living in Brookfield, Connecticut. So I lived about an hour and a half north of the city. And that's where I've been, and that's where I've been quarantining since March. And, it's been a hell of a ride. I have no regrets about moving to New York. It's a great city, and I'm sure it'll make a comeback. And, so many incredible musicians have lived in New York, including yourself, Mark, right? So there's a lot of musicians that have lived in New York at some point in their life because it's such a hot city for learning, for learning how to play and for playing with incredible players. So it's been a lot of fun. I love coming to South Carolina. I love doing the camp, the Hilton Head Jazz Camp, and ColaJazz Camp this year. Was really happy to be part of that. And the Jazz Corner is a special place.
Yeah.
What they do, what everyone does there at the Jazz Corner is wonderful. They do it with the right spirit. It's enjoyable to play there. The food is great. I love the Jazz Corner. I can't say enough. And they've been able to stay open safely during this.
Yeah.
Is such a testament to all the hard work that they put in. So I feel fortunate to be doing a gig there this weekend with the great Taylor Roberts and Justin Barnes, and it's going to be a lot of fun. So, but I'm also happy to be on the South Carolina Jazz Festival. The video is from a really nice concert in 2017 with incredible piano player Rossano Sportiello and Eddie Metz, and we play at the Jazz Corner every year. So we're familiar to the Jazz Corner crowd, but it's a nice concert with a great audience, and I think you'll enjoy it.
Man, fantastic. Yes, indeed. So we got a question that came in over Facebook here. Shay Williams says, Australia is on her bucket list. Is there a big jazz scene in Australia?
In a word, not. In a word, no, actually, I guess.
Whoops.
Australia, I think it's a bucket list for a lot of reasons. It's a beautiful place, a really beautiful country. People are generally nice. I think my husband will attest to that
They're okay.
They're okay.
No, they're nice. They're good.
Lifestyle is incredible in Australia. Food is incredible. There's a lot of great things. There have been times when jazz has been really super alive. I mean, there's some great musicians like James Morrison that came out of Australia, and many, Mike Knott, great piano player out of Australia. Theobalo, there's been a lot of incredible, you got Tommy Emmanuel. He's kind of crosses into jazz and country and everything. He does it all. He's one of the greatest guitar players in the world. There's a lot. I mean, Melbourne has a jazz scene. I will say that. Melbourne is really taken over where Sydney was in the 80s and 90s. Sydney had a really killer jazz scene in the 80s and 90s. But unfortunately, sort of gambling took over the pub and club live circuit. They started making money from gambling, legal gambling. And it kind of took off where live music was having a place in the pub. There was a pub in Sydney that every corner the pub had live music, and it was happening. Particularly the late 80s were just glory days, wonderful. But Melbourne is really the arts capital of Australia, so I would recommend if you're going to Australia, don't skip Melbourne. A lot of clubs. They're in quarantine right now, but they're going to come out and they're going to be great. It's always been kind of the cultural hub of Australia. Melbourne. Sydney's got the beauty. Sydney's got the beauty. It's got the harbour. You got to go to both.
Yeah, right on. Excellent. So tell us a little bit more about that, about your concert that's going to be presented on Tuesday at 6:30. Tell us about that show.
This is a group that's been playing together for probably 10 years. We've done a bunch of recordings on the Arbors Records label. We've done live recordings at the Jazz Corner. We've done studio recordings. It's an interesting, we all have a say into the repertoire and the arrangements. We've also played Marians in Bern, Switzerland many times. We hope to play in Marians in January. I believe they are open. So we will see if we can get to Europe in January. We'll see what happens. But so we've kind of, because Eddie lives in Florida, Rosanna's in New York, often in Europe as well, and I'm in Connecticut, we rehearse our repertoire on the road. Particularly a gig like Marian's, we've gotten a lot of rehearsal there because the gig is in the hotel. So you can rehearse in the day, and you've still got plenty of time to sightsee Switzerland. But so that's mostly we've got our act together, our arrangements on the road. Eddie gets gigs, I get gigs, Rosanna's got gigs. So it's really a three-way trio. We all have a say. And that I think that comes through in the set. Rosanna starts whatever he does. We don't have a set list. Rosanna starts. We play a few songs. Rosanna introduces me. I sing a few songs. I hand it back to Rosanna. He does. You know what I mean? It's a back and forth, so that we all kind of get equal billing. And it's interesting not having a designated band leader. We're all band leader. Sometimes Eddie talks more than the other two, more than us. Sometimes I'll talk more, Rosanna. Sometimes it depends who gets the gigs. So it's an interesting way to lead. But I think it works because we've worked together for a long time and we have a lot of repertoire in common. So it's very enjoyable. Great musicians, great fun. So I think you'll enjoy it. But our concert from a really nice venue, Blue Bamboo Center for the Arts in Winter Park, Florida. It's run by a bass player, so you know it's a great club.
Yes, indeed. We had a bass player join us on the call yesterday, and he jumped on and Delphio asked him, he said, well, how many solos do you get? And the bass player answered,
right.
He said, well, when I'm leading the gig, I get all I want.
Oh, it's so true. The number of gigs where it's like, oh, wait, I didn't get asked to solo. And sometimes I'm fine with that. But you gotta get a bass solo at least once on a gig, right?
Yeah, absolutely. People need time to talk.
That's right. That's exactly right. Bada bing.
Bing, bada boom. So a little bit about, it's kind of bizarre. This Australian girl comes into the world of jazz,
yeah, it's weird.
and just flourishing and doing amazing things. What was it about jazz that captured you? How did you get captured by the music? And where did all this start?
Well, before I start, I just want to say, because Eric's on the call, I'm low on battery. I hope you can still hear me. So before I start with that, you guys did a very inspiring gig last year together. I just want to say that I just love that gig that you guys did together with your original students, Eric. I still think about that gig and how much the students and I loved being there, and just the energy in the room was incredible. It was a really great gig you guys did together.
Thank you.
So backtracking, how did I get into it? I grew up in classical music. I was a flute player, a piccolo player, and a piano player. I actually played piccolo in a marching band called the Marching Koalas. I kid you not. And we marched in the Pasadena Rose Parade when I was about 12 years old. So music was my refuge growing up. It really was. From a very young age, from the age of 5, I just fell in love with playing and practicing music. I just loved it. My sister is also a musician living in Brooklyn, New York. She's an older musician. So when I was a teenager, she said, if you want to be in my band, I need a bass player, not a flute player. And she was my bossy older sister, still is, no. But there was a bass at school that only had 3 strings on it. But there was a bloke across the road who played in the Dixieland band. He said, don't worry, you don't need the 4th string. Nobody hears the low notes anyway, which was crazy.
Wow.
Which was really crazy. So I started playing the bass with 3 strings. Then I went out and saw other bass players. I'm like, wait, they've got a bottom string. I think he was lying. So I got a 4th string and taught myself up until the age of 18 when I moved to Sydney. And I went to the conservatorium in Sydney, studied jazz with some great Aussie players, really great Aussie musicians, and freelanced around Sydney before I got an arts council grant to come to the States. So it was one thing that's the next, which is often our stories in music. You know, we start here, we move there, we do this, we do that. So if you really love music, and I've always loved, I'm curious about the world. You know, I wanted to live in New York. I love being in Europe. I like being in Japan. So I'm very world curious, and so I think that's a good way to be.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
So you've played all over the world. Do you have some favorite places that just really stick out to you that you just love and you know constantly want to go back?
Yeah, I like it where the audience is really knowledgeable and love the music. Japan comes to mind. Japan has great audiences. And I've done quite a few records for the Venus record label there. So you actually get people coming to the gig, and quite a lot of people are, which is nice. And they're actually singing along with you, men and women. They're singing along the songs that you're singing, which you know, happens in pop concerts, but it also happens in jazz concerts in Japan. It's very interesting.
Wow.
So I love going to Japan. I love the culture, the food, the people. You know, they're just respectful, and they really love jazz still. So that's really great. I also like going to Germany, Switzerland. Often go there quite a few times a year, normally. I didn't do any of that after March this year. I was supposed to go to Japan in May, do a pre-Olympics concert with a Japanese all-women big band. I was looking forward to that. It just sounded so interesting. So we are going next. I believe that's going to happen next May, pre-Olympics again. So hopefully, fingers crossed, you know, we'll all get it all going again next year. But so, you know, and of course there are some really, well, like I said, the Jazz Corner, there are some nice places. I like playing Birdland in New York City. You know, there are some great places to play in the States as well. You know. So, yeah.
That big band gigs is pretty freaking awesome. And I know you're looking forward to that, and I'm sure it's going to happen in 2021. So what else do you have going on? What else are you looking forward to? What's coming up? What's some great news? What's in your future?
Yeah, well, you know, I think, especially because as it stands, after this weekend, there's not a lot on the calendar. I'm certainly doing a lot more teaching than I ever have done in my life on Zoom. And that's what's been really interesting to me. I never had students from Japan or Australia or these places, but now I do. And that's really new. And I'm learning to embrace Zoom teaching. Yes, it's challenging. Sometimes the bass cuts out. You know, it's the latency is an issue. Yeah, there's some issues, but I'm learning how to work around that. And the students keep coming back, so I know that they're getting something, and they're improving. So I know that even though this medium isn't the perfect medium, it is working. So I'm happy for that. So I just had my last Europe tour canceled for the year, which was in November, December. I understand completely if you know, it's not the right time to take risks for promoters. I get it. There's second waves happening in Germany and places in France. I understand completely. So it really is one day at a time. Of course, we're all hoping for a brighter, more musical 2021. but, you know, I'm working on videos. There's a great company called TrueFire, and they offered me a channel where I could create teaching videos. And there are so many good players on that channel, really, really great players, and mostly guitar players right now, some bass players, some singers, you know. And that's really a challenge. So I'm trying to embrace this time to do things that I haven't done before in my life. You know, I always put teaching on the back burner. Now it's front and center. Okay, so I'm learning things. And if I keep that in the focus, you know, then you don't worry so much about what you've lost this year. You know, if you survive it and strive in some kind of way, take it one day at a time. That's how I'm dealing with the pandemic, you know, and that's how it is right now. You know what I mean? I know things will change again. You know, we're pretty adaptable musicians. You know, we adapted after 9/11. We adapted to all kinds of situations. So we're all learning. We're all in the same band. We're all in the same camp, basically. And I feel like I'm learning all the time how to do things better.
Yeah, and I that's exactly what jazz teaches us is how to pivot, how to shift, how to move in the moment, how to make the best out of a current situation. You know, and that's inherent to do. It's a music where you're constantly having to learn. If you don't, you're going to go by the wayside. I mean, you're always trying to progress. You're always trying to be better. You're always trying to do better. And it teaches you vital life skills that when a situation like this comes, pandemic or a 9/11 thing, that you have that experience to not so much be afraid of it, but how to go, okay, well, let me see how I'm going to deal with this situation. How am I going to excel? How am I going to do better because of it? You know, I think that's I think that's why jazz is so darn important, especially now. It's been important for years, but we got to keep getting that message out there. The life skills you learn by checking out jazz is just vital for the world, vital for our communities, vital for the freaking government. You know, people need to learn how of jazz.
That's right. And you said the right word, community. It is a community. You know, when this first happened, I was, you know, people were calling each other, you know. I mean, as soon as I got back from Europe, I got a call from Houston person and people like that because, you know, musicians, we do care about each other and we want each other to do, you know, to survive and do well. So community is so important. That's the key to the future, definitely.
Yeah, right on. Well, thank you so much for your time. I really appreciate you. You're quite a light in this world. So thank you so much. We're looking forward to your concert on Tuesday, 6:30 p.m. at scjazzfestival.com. Have a great time down at the Jazz Corner. It's awesome. Enjoy.
I will, for sure. Great to talk to you today.